whole subject of Lucifer belongs to what I would call, Kyle, the fog of war. You know, the fog of war is a well-known term, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the fog of war is a terrible thing, isn't it? If you are out as a foot soldier, out on the battleground, and you are in the fog of war, like many young kids of my age were in the Vietnam War, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You don't know who is shooting who. You don't know who the enemy is. You could be killing gooks. You could be killing your best friend, right? Mm-hmm. The fog of war is very real. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's a fog of war around the war for the human mind. There's a war on this planet, raging for the intelligence of the human mind, and the divine birthright of humanity is under threat, and many people are lost and confused in the fog of war. I can tell you, as a comparative mythologist, who some people consider to be of the level of Joseph Campbell and Mircea Eliade, even though I myself don't make that claim, it's been said of me. I assure you that the true Lucifer is none other than the divine goddess Sophia. Why is she Lucifer? Because Lucifer means the light bearer. Why is she the light bearer? Well, this is a great secret from the pagan and Gnostic mysteries, that she is the origin of what I call the organic light. That is to say that the Gnostics knew something that I myself have verified by shamanic researches in my own lifetime. And I have not done this alone. I have done it with other confirming witnesses. The Gnostics knew that when the divine Sophia, who was a light being of high living luminosity, called an aeon, came from the galactic core, and when she turned into the earth, as explained in the story, part of her divine luminosity did not completely materialize into the mountains, the rivers, the clouds, the skies, and the body of the earth. Part of it remained in its original pleromic purity. That is to say, the purity of the light at the galactic core. The purity of the light at the core of our galaxy is staring you in the face right now. It is present in this planet. I call it the organic light. And therefore, if you read the story, if you give yourself a chance to look at the Gnostic narrative of Sophia, you will see that it is self-evident that only she is the true Lucifer, and that it is not a satanic and perverted influence, but it is in fact our divine origin.
John, you mentioned the planet having real luminosity. Now,
right.
This is seen in the diagrams of people who promote the idea of the hollow earth, that there's actually a sun in the center of the earth, a star, rather, a secret sun, perhaps even the black sun could be what's referenced. Now, our current scientific understanding, what I got in textbooks when they show me the Earth and they give a cross-section, even though they've been able to only get down a few miles into the Earth's crust, our scientists are so knowledgeable that they tell us what it's like at the very core. How amazing, what perceptive abilities that they're able to say definitively how each layer of the Earth is. Could you touch upon this this idea that perhaps there is a star within the Earth, that the Earth might be hollow, that it's open at the poles, and also just what science is saying about it, and clear up some of these misconceptions, perhaps.
Okay, I'm not going to address the hollow earth theory as such or try to refute it. I will take a different angle. I will put the matter in the form of a question. If it is true, as I say, that the Gnostics, operating as teams of trained shamans and seers over many centuries, determined that we can witness the origin of the earth directly as a white, soft white luminosity pouring from the planet, then wouldn't it be reasonable to consider how to have that experience rather than to speculate about what is inside the earth? They had that experience of the organic light. That is the experience of attaining the Holy Grail. It means to stand before the living white, milk-white, soft luminosity that is emanating from this planet due to the fact that the material body of the planet is simply the garment or clothing of a divine being who came from the galactic center. The Gnostics called the galactic center the pleroma, and they explained that the pleroma is a molten core of this white stellar luminosity. So they then determined how to prove that was the case by directly accessing and witnessing that luminosity.
Is the aurora borealis perhaps part of this luminosity of the
aurora borealis and other phenomenon like sprites in the atmosphere are part of what you would call, what I call the BEMA, the BEMA, which is the bioelectrical magnetic aura of the planet. Now the organic light, which has been called by other names, the Sophianic light, the Sophianic radiance, the alchemists called it by many names. It was called the philosopher's stone, the white stone of the philosophers. It was called the Sophic hydrolith. It has many coded names. The organic light is the pure, non-materialized, stellar luminosity of the divine being called Sophia. And it is still present and coexists in the earth with the part of her that turned into the material body of the earth. This is the great revelation of the Gnostic teachings. So we've covered two parts now. I think we're doing great because we're only 45 minutes here, and we said we would cover the background in the first hour, right?
Yes.
Let me summarize. There are three parts to the Gnostic message for humanity. The first part is the Sophianic narrative, the fallen goddess scenario, explaining how the earth came to be. Now let me say that of course we can't go into this scenario in depth, but you will find it outlined on medhistory.org, and you will find it treated extensively in my talks, especially the talk with Lisa Harrison.
Oh, great show. If people want a good overview of the subject, that's one.
Let me just point out that one of the astounding points of this narrative, which is the birthright of humanity, it's the story of our origin and of the origin of our planetary mother. One of the astounding points of it that you do not find clearly in any other cosmology or creation myth is this. It states clearly that the divine presence, living divine presence, which I call Gaia Sophia, which is currently existing in the earth, pre-existed the earth. In other words, those of you today who might be attracted to a pagan viewpoint, looking at the earth as divine, as a living being, as the mother goddess, as the earth goddess, those of you who are inclined to that view, I encourage you to consider the amazing statement of Gnosis, which is, yes, that is true. Gaia is a living goddess, but she even existed before she was Gaia. And that is what the story tells. So we have a magnificent story, A. B is the method of the Gnostics, or the method of the mysteries. This is called the divine mathesis, which means instruction by the light. The Gnostics had a method, and they all had the same method, and I have used and tested this method myself today. And as I say, I have not done it alone. I have done it in the company of others, and there is a growing number of people who will affirm to you what I am saying now.
Is this method similar to, say, some of the methods of the Zen Buddhists, especially before they became perverted, or even philosophy itself? Because the name philosophy derives from philo, Sophia,
love of Sophia.
Yeah.
Right. No, it is a specific method which is called the Telestic method.
Okay.
Telestic. This word derives from the Greek word telestis, which is what the Gnostics actually called themselves. You know, Kyle, I pointed out in the first half hour that Gnosticism was viciously attacked. The Gnostics came out of the mystery schools to warn the early Christians that they were on a very dangerous road of delusion and self-destruction by accepting Yahweh as the true God, when he was only an impostor. He was an archontic God, a pretender. And they warned against that because they had direct knowledge of the story of Sophia, and they called they called themselves Telestes, meaning we who are aimed, we who are guided. So they were guided by her story to the truth. And they had a method for staying on the path of truth. And what is that method? It is the method of what I call Telestic Shamanism. Now, I hope to put the term Telestic Shamanism into public discussion. As you know, I am the person who put the term archons on the map.
Oh yeah, I definitely. I want to cover the archons.
We're coming to that.
That's briefly. Yes,
right. That's the third point. But I'm still on the second point right now.
Okay.
So let me just say briefly: the Gnostics worked by a method, and they left us a method, and this method is still usable today. What is this method? It is the method of ecstatic cognition or ecstatic trance. Basically, I can testify to you that what I practice today in shamanism is the same technique of the Gnostics. If you want to know, if you really want to know, that is to say, to become a Gnostic, how the earth originated, how the human species itself was created, how the genome was designed, if you want to know exactly who are these archonic extraterrestrial parasites, how they originated, where they exist, how they operate against humanity. If you want to know all that, there's only one way that you can actually know it directly, and that is by entering an ecstatic trance and knowing it in a state of ecstasy. I want to point out to everyone that what the Gnostics knew was not merely intellectual knowledge, and it was certainly not, although they were pagan intellectuals of a high order, and it was certainly not speculation or belief or dogma. It was the kind of knowledge that you can only know when you're in ecstasy.
Now,
you have to be in ecstasy to know these things.
This ecstatic trance, how was it achieved? Are there a variety of means? Were drugs employed? Did they do any kinds of dances? Was it sexual? Tantra? What kinds of things were involved to get to this state of mind?
Primarily, there were three methods of reaching the level of ecstasy where you can know things as the gods know them, on the level of a divine intelligence. But it is empirical and direct. It is not speculation. There are three methods. One was dance, sacred dance and movement. The second was through sacred sexuality, yes, because in sex, your senses and your intelligence can be heightened and honed to an extraordinary degree. But the third method, which I consider to be the most common method, widespread method, was by the use of not drugs, nope, of psychoactive plants.
Good distinction, thank you.
Right, psychoactive plants, such as psilocybin mushrooms particularly, which did grow in Europe and were used at Eleusis, for instance. The mysteries of Eleusis have been the most widely studied of all the ancient Gnostic traditions. And it has been shown by numerous scholars, from Wasson down to Karl Ruck and many others, that the potion, the kikion, that they drank in the mysteries of Eleusis had the properties of LSD, and that it was made by an extraction of water from fermented barley, because fermented barley has on it a certain fungus which produces the natural chemistry of LSD. And so they used psychoactive plants, as I do today, and it's not illegal in some parts of the world, I should say, to enter into ecstasy. I have to emphasize again, if you want to meet the wisdom goddess, if you want to know the origin of this planet, you can, of course, listen to the reports and findings of Gnostics such as myself, but that's second-hand information. Mm-hmm. If you want to know yourself, go to ecstasy. You cannot know it without being in ecstatic trance.
It is amazing how there are plants and fungi out there that, and even animals, certain toads, that if you are to consume them or somehow alter your biochemistry using them, that you're able to get to these different states of being, states of mind, and that these experiences are shared by many of the different people using them. So it's not necessarily that somebody is moving completely away from reality. It's just that they're seeing it from a shifted perspective, perhaps a broader perspective.
Exactly. Now, I'd like to counter very quickly two possible objections before we move on to the third part of the Gnostic message concerning the archons. The two objections whenever psychoactive plants are brought up is, well, why do we need them? Why can't we just do it out of our own conscious potential? The second objection is, well, there are so many diverse reports, and there are so many people just take these plants and they just hallucinate and they just use them for recreational purposes, and so how can you claim that they could be a reliable source of knowledge? Okay? Well, I'll counter both of those objections in this way. When you know what the Gnostics did, when you respect, and I ask you to bring some respect to this matter, when you respect that they had a reliable and verifiable method, then you may consider that using that method would lead to the right use of psychoactive plants. The right use, the correct use. They can be used in incorrect ways. The incorrect usage of them has led to much confusion.